In this session we're going to talk about the self-administered questionnaire and look at some of the items that may be included in a self-administered questionnaire. Look at some of the issues. We'll start with the mandatory issues, and the first one is to give an explanation to those participating as to the purpose and nature of the exercise. So have an introductory message to accompany the questionnaire, and it should explain the why the questionnaire is important and why people should participate and how the sample has been collected. Make the respondents aware that their confidentiality will be respected, ask for their name, address, telephone number, and expect not to receive all of those as well, because if it's not necessary to have their name and address and telephone number, why ask for it? And what will be, a lot of people will be skeptical anyway about giving out their name and address and telephone number as to why are you asking for it and what are you going to do with it? Will it lead to a lot of unwanted telephone calls in the future? Keep the questionnaire procedure simple. Simplicity is what's required for a self-administered questionnaire. The respondent should not have to work hard to answer the questions. It should be easy to do. And keep the questionnaire short. Only ask the questions that are absolutely needed. Don't waste the respondent's time asking questions that are not necessary. And if you're asking questions that may be construed as personal, for example, gender, age, or income, only ask if absolutely necessary. And if they are asked, reassure the respondent that confidentiality will cover these issues anyway. But only ask the questions if absolutely needed. Now the optional ones, items for inclusion, well, you might want to contact the respondents in advance. Send them a letter explaining the survey and what the survey is hoping to do and the information it's hoping to collect and who will benefit from it, and just explain it and introduce the whole activity. It may be wise to consider incentives to encourage people to respond. It's not appropriate in every case, but in some cases it may help. So if the people respond, they'll be entered into a draw and win a foreign holiday or whatever, or they'll get some small gift in return. Be prepared to follow up or send reminders, although following up may be seen as intrusive as well, so it has to be done gently, and perhaps a gentle reminder is what's required. A friendly, gentle reminder. A well-worded letter which is friendly and just reminds people that the questionnaire it's required, it's a good idea, it will help, it will shed light on a certain issue or whatever. And offer to send the respondents a summary of the findings so they can see how the data is used. And if you promise this, then do it. Make sure it happens. Now, if it's a telephone interview, then there are many issues involved here, and many call centers should be aware of these issues. For example, who's calling? The interviewer's full name. Many call centers who are based overseas try to deceive the caller by saying that they give a very British sounding name when clearly they are not from this country, from the UK. Well, that's a deceit. to lie. Their real name will be from the country they live in and from their family and so on, and they are pretending to be someone that they're not. So, who's calling? What's the interviewer's full name? Identify the research organization as well. Who's funding this? And be honest and open about who is funding it. And what's the nature or purpose of the research? What's it trying to do? Why is it being conducted? And how is the sample selected? With a telephone interview, sometimes the numbers are just generated randomly. Well, that's not exactly a compliment to the caller. Sorry, to the person being called. It's not a compliment to say we called you because you have been randomly generated. It doesn't sound right. So the sample selection procedure should be specified. You were selected to answer this questionnaire because, and explain how it came about. And give assurances of confidentiality and make sure these are real. People may be reluctant to give out a lot of information about themselves, personal information about them or their family or where they live or where they work. And even with confidentiality, they may still be reticent to give out this sort of information. How long will the interview take? If it's a long interview, people may not want it. I mean, if it's a cold call, it may happen just as the person's about to sit down and watch a television program, or it may happen as they're about to have their meal. Well, they don't want to spend a long time talking on the telephone just as watching their food getting cold, just as they're about to eat. They don't want that. So explain the length of the interview. And the name, address and telephone number of a contact person. Well, you can ask for this, but people may be, as I said, reluctant to give their name, their address or their telephone number. The telephone number, of course, the caller will have because they're making the call, but their address and the name, they may be reluctant to give that. And that's understandable because they don't know who the person is calling. They've never heard from this person before. They were never involved in any activity with this organization before, perhaps, and so they're perhaps reluctant to give out any information. And provide an opportunity to refuse to participate as required by informed consent and volunteer participation guidelines. So the person called may not want to participate, in which case say thank you very much and hang up. Do not pester or call back or make a nuisance by trying to bully the person into answering the questions. And provide an opportunity for the person being interviewed to ask questions. The most basic question is, why are you asking me this question? Or what does the question mean? Or how will this information be used? So make sure that the person being called can ask these questions. The optional ones, well, perhaps offer an incentive. Enter into a free draw, perhaps, or win a car or a holiday or something. Or maybe just some small gift. How will the data be used? That's important. It's important that the people who are participating will know how the data will be used. They may not approve of how the data is going to be used. Or they may, it depends. The format, the style of interview, are the open or closed items. That's important. Are the questions opened or closed? The sponsor, who hired the research organization? So perhaps give a little bit of information about the sponsor and why this information is being sought by that particular sponsor. Any unusual expectations of the respondent? Recall to childhood, for example. If you're asking for the respondent to recall periods of their life as a part of the interview, that may be difficult. It may also be distorted by a lot of factors, memory or unfortunate incidents in the person's life in the past, or good things that happened to the person in the past, or it may be distorted for a whole variety of reasons. So trying to get the respondent to recall issues may be itself an issue. And there may be a detailed discussion of the research purpose. The difficulty with having a detailed discussion is that it may bore the person being briefed. They may become bored or confused or intimidated. They may even become worried by the whole exercise and feel that they wish to not participate as a consequence. So a detailed discussion of the research purpose, for some it may be a good idea, for others it may not be such a good idea. Perhaps a briefer summary form of the research purpose would be more appropriate. So we have issues here with telephone interviews and with interviews conducted face-to-face or in small group situations. And we have all sorts of issues about the training of the field workers, the people making the calls or conducting the interviews. We have all sorts of issues with the wording, the structure, the delivery of the interview itself. And we have also many issues, ethical issues we haven't touched on so much, but we will in other videos. And we've also got issues about confidentiality, which again is a big topic and needs careful consideration. So it's not as straightforward as it appears. Conducting an interview, it may seem superficially to be very straightforward, but in fact it involves many issues. However, that's all I'm going to do in this session, so we're going to leave this topic now, and thank you for watching.